What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 3 of the Bubba Speed Career Mode in MotoGP 20. And after 2 races, Bubba Speed and Masia are tied on 45 points with a win apiece and a second place apiece. So far so good for Bubba, having a really good start to the season. Something you wouldn't necessarily expect considering the bike he's on. But as he continues to get good results, more and more of the better teams will start to be interested. And of course, there are a lot of teams that so far have rejected him, and these are all Moto2 teams. But if you look at Moto3, and of course we want to be staying in Moto3 to try to win this title, there are some offers at this moment in time. Moto2 doesn't really interest us at all as of right now, because like I said, we want to win the title in every single division, every single class. And right now we have offers from Red Bull KTM, Viennese Snipers, and Petronas Sprinta Racing. And basically, you know, you have a few. Of course, they show the expectation, so top 5 for racing per race, and championship goal is going to be 3rd, and qualifying is 2nd row. So they give you different, you know, of course, different salaries and stuff like that. And this one would only be a 1-year contract, so not really anything long term that you can say I'm going to be comfortable with this. But at the same time, that's probably the best way to do it, considering if you win the title, then you generally want to move up anyway. So everybody seems to be offering 1 year, at least these 3 teams are. And the question is, do we want to take one of these offers immediately, or do we want to wait and see if maybe one of the top teams makes an offer? And I feel like it's best, because we still have 10 weeks to see if maybe with a win here, or you know, or a win in the next few races, because of course, like in 10 weeks, you figure there's going to be at least a couple of Grand Prix. There's a good chance of maybe Bubba actually getting a better team. So winning here is definitely going to be pretty fundamental. And of course, Argentina is a track where I think Bubba won last season on one of the worst bikes on the grid, and that's definitely very promising. Starts off on pole, loses a few positions early on, but I feel like Bubba, having been, you know, pretty dominant throughout the entire weekend in practice and stuff like that, should feel very confident. As always, still trying to get used to the game as a whole, so making some mistakes like right there, that's definitely a big mistake to make. But I feel like there's still a lot for me to learn when it comes to the steering. That's probably the most, I'm not going to say confusing, but it's definitely the most, it's the mechanic of the game that requires the most getting used to, for sure. Especially because, as I've mentioned a few times, the steering in MK, I almost said Mortal Kombat, in MotoGP 19 and previous games was really bad. So this game has a lot more of a reliance on corner speed and things like that. So it's going to take a little bit of time. And I gotta be honest with you guys, like, I wasn't really a big fan of this track, but having done a lot of practice on it in this game, and it's kind of the same thing as Circuit of the Americas, where I wasn't really a fan. Now, I like this one more than Circuit of the Americas to start off with, so I will say that, but I've just really started to like this track. Like, it's actually really fun to play on, and I don't know, it's probably just because, you know, the gameplay is so much better this year that every track seems like it's actually enjoyable play. Now, I'll reserve my judgment for, say, Austria and Aragon and stuff like that, because those are tracks that I really don't like, and maybe Thailand as well. But so far, the gameplay is just making every track really fun. Now, this is a part where, and this, I don't know why this happens, because I'm not playing on a low difficulty, but that's a part of the track where they slow down big time. Now, of course, came out pretty bad out of that turn, so didn't really set ourselves up in the best way possible to go through that last couple of turns. But that's definitely a spot where Bubba has the chance of gaining a lot of ground, and it just seems like maybe something the AI does is, I don't know, they just seem like they slow down way earlier, and they do actually come out of turns better. So that might just be kind of the way the gameplay is this season. But I just feel like they're a little bit too cautious. So maybe we'll try, like, lifting the difficulty up a bit more and seeing if maybe that makes a difference. But like I said, as of right now, you know, playing on a decent difficulty, the same thing we played on MotoGP 19, and they still break really early. Like, I feel like right here, you see, they're on our ass. Like, Bubba is in no way whatsoever safe. Of course, he gets passed by Antonelli right there, but you see how early they break, and Bubba is not having a problem stopping going into the turn, and he actually hits the apex pretty much perfectly, pretty much identical to them. So I mean, it's just might be something to do with the game. And there you go, Suzuki actually crashes, and Suzuki was one of the more surprising performers and so does Barry Baltus. So I guess maybe they crashed each other out or something like that, and that's interesting because Suzuki, I think, finished 4th in 2 races in a row, and he was doing really well in qualifying too. So that's an interesting thing to see happen, and it's a really welcome change. Like, they definitely weren't lying. The AI has actually improved in the game. Like, there is more variety to it. Before, it was just AI pretty much just does the perfect thing, and they don't really crash, they don't really battle amongst themselves. They'll look like it, but they don't actually pass and actually have battles. But in this game, I will say, like, I haven't really seen crazy battles, but I have seen a lot more AI crashes and things like that don't really involve me. So that's really good to see, because things can actually really change in drastic ways throughout the season. So makes it really interesting. Meanwhile, Bubba Speed has the fastest lap of the race with a 1:58. I think in qualifying 1:56 or something like that, or 1:55 was actually what Bubba was getting to, but that of course was with soft tires and with low fuel, so doesn't have to worry about some of the things that you have to worry about in the race. And I want to say one thing, because I think I brought this up in the Circuit of the Americas video. The fuel tank system is actually really cool. Like, I really like the fact that they make you have to control that. And of course, you can deactivate it if you want, but I want to have it. I want to have it be, you know, I'm not gonna say like a crazy simulation in terms of physics, but have some managerial stuff like that. You know, having to be able to understand how much fuel you'll have and conserve it when you can and things like that. And I think this is a really cool system, and I do believe I have kind of figured out the best way to do it. At least this is what I believe so far is the best way to do it. In other words, you have, of course, I think I mentioned it in the previous video, you have 2 power, and you can have up to 4, I think, traction control. So what I do is in the early laps, when I'm trying to, if not get a lead, then at least, you know, trying to battle and stay as close as possible to the front, I'm gonna put power on 2. That means a lot of fuel consumption, but at least you can go. And then traction control, I'm gonna have it at 3, because I feel like with my type of riding style, too little traction control is a problem, but also too much is gonna kind of slow me down a little bit. Just because I feel like my style of playing, even though I'm a lot cleaner than I was in MotoGP 19, just because the game forces you to be like that, and I feel like that's a really good thing. I just feel like my style is pretty aggressive and is a bit more, you know, on the edge, I guess you could say. And having lower traction control is definitely better. But in a case like this, where Bubba is in first, he has a couple seconds, I think, more or less, of a gap between himself and second place. You can definitely conserve your fuel. You can set up the 1 power. You can put on 4 traction control, and just try to race your own race and dictate the pace and keep yourself at a solid enough distance to not have to worry about, you know, basically getting caught. And if you do find yourself in that kind of a situation, like Bubba makes a mistake right there, runs on the grass and almost crashes, then you can actually set it up to power 2 and then lower the traction control. That way you can get a bit more, you know, just a bit more speed and have a better chance of controlling the race, and maybe just putting a bit more of a gap between you and second place. Right now, like, Bubba lost a lot of ground due to that one mistake, but I definitely feel like, you know, at this point, Bubba has this track down, and he's using the right tires, because the game does actually do a good job of explaining when you should use certain tires. And I just feel like overall the game does give you a lot of good advice. And Bubba has actually gained 0.2 of a second in that sector right now. Coming into the last sector, there's definitely a chance of him, or maybe this is the second to last, so in the 3rd sector right here, Bubba has a chance to actually pull up a little bit of ground. Like right here is going to definitely gain a lot. I just feel like if he doesn't blow it, even though he does run wide here, touches the grass, which is always risky, thankfully avoids a penalty, because that could definitely cost you a lot in this. Still maintains a second gap, so that's a solid amount of space to have. You can still be calm, you can still be comfortable and not have to worry about it too much. But if you look at the HUD, they're actually getting really close. But Bubba can definitely gain a lot of ground, can definitely put a lot of ground between him and second right here in this part of the track where they do go extremely slow. And Bubba comes out of it really well. I feel like both turns he pretty much nailed them as well as he can get. That was, however, a very poor lap time. That was 1.7 seconds slower than his fastest lap of the race. So not something you want to see going into the final lap. Maybe a lack of confidence, or maybe some of the pressure getting to him, because that's something that we have seen so far in definitely in the first season, and in Qatar we saw that too. Pressure starts to get to him, make some mistakes, and that doesn't bode really well in the long run. That's definitely something that has to be fixed, and something that I definitely have to work on. But still maintaining a decent enough gap. They will gain a little bit here just because they have a speed advantage. There's no denying it. They have better bikes. They have higher quality engineers and all that stuff. So they will gain a little bit right here. But boom, Bubba's going to be a late breaker. He hits the turn actually about as good as you can get it. I don't really think you can do much better than that. That's just perfect lines, perfect trajectory right there, and perfect execution. Able to carry enough speed through it. Definitely gained a lot. Gained a second in that one little turn right there. So definitely either Bubba's just a god, or the difficulty needs to be raised a little bit more. Regardless, Bubba is on his way to getting the second win of the season and putting at least 5 points between him and Masia. I think Masia is still second right now, and he seems like he's going to be, maybe like the Canet of last season. The question is, can he remain as consistent as Canet as Bubba touches the grass and potentially loses a little bit of ground? Luckily, it looks like Bubba's going to maintain it, not really losing too much. He actually gained a little bit, gained a couple of tenths too, so very, very comfortable at the end, unless he makes a mistake here coming into the last couple of turns. This hairpin, I guess, could be a problem, but he nails it once again pretty much perfectly. Maybe comes out of it a bit slow, and then he goes into the final turn very, very well, and he gets a very much deserved second win of the season. He's 2 for 3 so far, and got a big 2.2 second gap between Masia and himself, and then Foggia was 2.5, and then of course Finati in fourth was pretty far back. Okura and Antonelli follows, and there you go. 5 points separate Bubba Speed and Jaume Masia. Hopefully that'll continue to build. Hopefully Bubba can continue to improve and actually get himself the title, because I've always said it, maybe the ideal scenario essentially is win within 2 seasons. Maybe have a first season to get used to the division or the class, and then in the second one, once you have confidence, maybe racing for a better team, go out there and dominate and try to win the title, and then within a few seasons end up being in MotoGP, and hell, try to do the same thing there. Maybe get ourselves a spot on either Repsol or a Yamaha. Now, I would honestly like to be on a Yamaha or a Ducati, just because I feel like those are the 2 brands that I prefer. But hell, whatever. If we can get on a factory bike down the line, that would be good. But that's still a long way away from where we are right now. I'm making some money in Moto3, but definitely still have to focus very much on the task at hand, which is winning the title in this class, which is definitely far from a given. Have to stay focused and have to put in a lot of effort, because there's still plenty of guys in here that can give Bubba a really, really hard time. We're only 16 out of 52 weeks into the season, and still got a lot to work on. And I do actually look forward to seeing how the tests work. Of course, that's pretty far down the line, but still, they have added testing on the off months, whether it's during the summer or during the winters, I feel like. So it's going to be a very, very interesting thing to see. And of course, Bubba did actually do some development too, so whether or not that carries over to his next team, if he does get a next team, then that remains to be seen, but we will see very, very shortly. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and let me know what you think of Bubba right now, and do you think the difficulty should be raised, and how much. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thanks for watching.